I think everyone, oh, we got another one.
Yep, I think we're good. Welcome everyone to Google Camp. If you want to connect with us on social media, it's #IE Google Camp. And should you need assistance during this Zoom session, please private message your Zoom moderator, June Miller, through the chat option on the bottom toolbar. And should you need assistance with the conference schedule, please refer back to the Google Camp schedule page and select Help. You will be attending using Pear Deck for formative assessment. And I'm going to introduce our presenter today, Verity Olliff, and I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you very much, June.
Enjoy.
So hi everyone, hopefully you were able to get the link. I put it in the chat several times. You probably saw it several times. You just need it once. I'm going to share my screen with you and then we are going to get started. We're going to go quickly, but if you need to, you can put any questions you have in the chat and then I will pause. I will try very hard to pause and that way June can, address me if there's some pressing questions if you need it. Pear Deck is fairly clickable. It's easy to navigate, but there are some steps that you might want to spend some time asking questions for. There's going to be quite a few things you have to download to make it the best optimized user experience possible. So I'm just going to start off on kind of who I am. I actually live in Los Angeles, but I teach in Oxnard. It's about an hour north of Los Angeles on the coast. It's very nice. I am a high school English teacher, but I'm also a site and district ed tech coach. I've been using Pear Deck for the last 3 years. I use it to make sure my students are interacting with any content that I provide. I proceeded to go through Pear Deck, really enjoy it. And as you can see in the corner there, I'm a regional coach for Pear Deck, meaning I went through extra training to make sure I really understand the ins and outs of it. This spring, I also became a Google certified trainer. So if you have questions, make sure you please pause, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. The others are just things so that you know about me. I have my Twitter and my email there. They're both linked. So you can just simply press on those and it should direct you right there so that we can continue our conversation, or you can ask more questions if you need to. Just for transparency's sake, I want you to know that Pear Deck is one of those freemium programs, meaning you can get it for free, and there's things that you get for free. It's fantastic. I used that for many years. It was just last year that our district decided to pay for it as a district. And then there's also the paid version. So certain things I'm going to show you today are part of the paid and certain things are part of the free. I make sure in this to show you those, so that way you're not feeling like you're cheating. So you'll notice this first slide tells you exactly what you get for free. The next slide that I have there is what it does cost if you want to buy it as a teacher. And then if your district is interested, you can always do that. And this is kind of what you gain outside of that free one. So I just want to make sure you go into it knowing this. I know sometimes you go to these conferences and you're like, oh, it's a great program. Then when you go to use it, it kind of feels like you got cheated. So I just want you to know going into it the differences. That way you don't feel that, oh, she showed me stuff, it was great, oh, I have to pay. There's plenty to do. I worked on it for free for 2.5 years. And then just this last year, we got it as a paid program. So that way you can see the difference between the two. Just so you know, this is actually a deck that Pear Deck has created. So there's going to be some things that you're going to see. I left it for you, so that way I know once you learn something, a lot of times you have to go back to your school and share it. So you can borrow this, you can use parts of it, and that way you can really see. Pear Deck has really helped in regards to the synchronous and asynchronous. So you're going to get both versions for best practices. So you'll see that they are color coded. You have the greens, the orange, the pink, and the blue. So that should help you kind of know what we're talking about. This is always a good one to start with. It gives like distance learning expectations. I actually give this to my students before we start things, just so that they can kind of see, like, in the adult world, you get rules also. It's not just as a student. So it's a nice way to start it out. It might be helpful for you. I wanted to make sure you had it in there. It would be great if you could actually open up a second monitor or open up a second window, a second tab, whichever works best for you or what your device can handle. and you're going to go to Join PD. I'm actually going to give you the link in a second, but if you have that open right now, it'll just save some time. So it's joinpd.com. That's how students would go at it. The nice thing is you're going to see the student view on your device, and I'm going to show you the trainer view also. Some teachers actually use a third device when they're in class. It just depends on what you had. I always would just split my screen. It was easier for me. Have the big monitor at the front and at my desk. Just so you know, you have the way it looks depends. So this is actually a nice slide that is in there. So if you're a Zoom person, you're going to do the share. If you are a Hangout person, which our district is a Google Meet, they don't call them Hangout anymore. You can tell it's a little dated. We always I show this to everybody just so you know how to present. It just makes it easier. So right now we're going to go to the Join PD. That way you are set. I will give you the code in a second. But you're going to go to Join PD, and then, as you know, or maybe you don't know, Pear Deck is actually created by teachers, and it's meant to really get students involved in their learning. That is the whole goal of it. That is the whole point of it, is to really get you involved in your learning. So right now, I'm going to start my presentation so that you can actually see it. We're going to do a live session. I'll be showing you how to get everything started, just so you know. But right now, I'm just going to have you play with it first as a student before we get into how to set it up, how to create it as a teacher. So this is going to be your code once it comes up. So this is our code: Zesty Raisins Evaluate Confused Bandanas. They always give you a list of words. It's ZRECD. So once you log in, you will be ready and able to get started. It's actually funny that sometimes they use words that our class, we don't know what the word is. So we actually turn it into a lesson of like, wow, you're digging deep. Like they always use for X, Zerbic. And so we found out it means when you're super dry, like they just have words there. If you teach high school like I do, the students will come up with alternate word choices. So you might want to just be aware of that. This one, not so easy. Sometimes if you end up with a lot of D's, you get some interesting alternate choices. As you can see here on the bottom, if you are using Google Classroom, you can actually invite your class through Google Classroom. You can give students a link, or you can post it in this way. So it just depends. I'm going to make it easier for you, for those of you that are having a challenge here. Hopefully my chat button will appear, or not. It is not. Oh, there we go. So here is the link if that's easier for you to go. So this is actually being recorded right now. So Brenda, you don't have to worry. And then the code is right there, or you can just press this and you'll automatically have that. All right, so I'm going to move forward because we have already gone through all of this. All right, so for this one, you're actually going to be making your responses. So how much do you personally know about Pear Deck? And you'll notice here on my screen, I have a lock screen button. If I hover over it, you'll see there's this gray corner. I can click on that corner. I can lock the screen so you guys stop working. Or if I hold down, I also have a timer. So in this chance, I'm going to give everyone about a minute to finish answering their questions. And you'll see that it actually counts down. If I want to encourage people, I can click the show responses and I'll actually see. Now, when I teach a high school class, this basically has people turn into, I'm going to answer and make it turn all crazy and funny. So you'll start seeing people bounce around. That's where usually, just as a note, before I ever show my responses, I will always lock the screen before I show them. And if I lock the screen, then it stays static and I don't get the ridiculousness. This comes in very handy in the future. We're going to do some drawing slides, and not to be against high school boys, but they love it, and it's anatomy. And I'll get pictures I don't want, so I always lock my screens first. So now the screen is locked. I can show the responses. This is where everyone is. So we have one person that loves it and uses it regularly, I'd assume. 17 that have been kind of dipped their toes in it. 38 have heard about it but have never used it. And then some of you are just adventurous souls that said Pear Deck looks nice and you're coming to visit. So welcome. So I can hide that. That is how it looks if you have the free version. If I proceed to actually have the paid version, I can actually open up my dashboard in a new window, which at the moment is going to be a challenge. So as a teacher, if I have the premium version, I actually am able to look at it. And as you can see, I get a list of everyone who is in the categories. So as a teacher, I always see who's responding. If I have the premium version, I will see it. If I have the free version, all I'm going to see is the responses, and they're anonymous to a certain extent. For this one, you can see I can see exactly who is if I have the premium version. So that's one of the big differences, just so you're aware of that, that's one of the things that you can see the differences on. So going back to our original presentation, I'm going to unlock our screens. I'm going to then proceed to go forward, and you're going to see all the different types of questions you can answer. So in this one is one of those drawing slides. So if you notice, when you pull up the drawing tool, you're able to actually draw, but you also will see there's the text box, so you can actually type. I have some students that love to draw, especially we have touch screens in my class. To them, this is their chance. They'll draw inappropriate things, but they also just like to draw. It's a different feel. But then I also have some of those very controlled students that are like, I can't write perfectly. It doesn't match my handwriting. So then those are the students that they use the type button all the time. Everything is a typing entry. But the students that love to draw or doodle, that I give them that chance. A lot of times I'll give an entire slide deck to my students. And if I don't actually need a response, I'll just have it as a draw slide. They can draw on it, they can highlight, they practice their annotation. I see the results, but I'm not using it for feedback. They're just using it to keep themselves busy. So drawing is nice. Again, I can lock the screens, and then I can show the responses. So I can see how individuals have responded. I can see there's some black dots on things. People have actually used the typing. Some people get embarrassed and they delete their responses. Looks like I have a lot of typers. I have a lot of dots. So you can see how it works. I got some check marks. Some people go outside. Ooh, we got some color changing. You can also change the size. So that way you're able to see what everyone has. You're able to see how it responds. So moving on to the next one. This one here is, you can use it for geography. I also oftentimes use it in English. I will have a picture, and then I make the students, because I can change what the flags stand for, I make the students actually label parts of the picture. So like, what is showing tone, or like, who is the protagonist in this image? So that way they're using their literary skills in different fields. Obviously it works fantastic for geography. I've seen math teachers use it, like identify what's wrong in this problem. They'll have the problem, and then students put the flag where the problem is or where the mistake happened. So it's truly a feedback learning environment. I even had a PE teacher use it this year, and he had a picture of part of a game and who was breaking the rule in the basketball game. And it was someone's foot was outside of the line. And so it really is a way that you can use it in so many different ways if you don't just use it for geography. So in this case, hopefully all of you from watching the movie, I tried to make it simple. We're moving Africa around, as you can see, but most of you are right on top of where it is. And if I was using the premium version, as soon as I hovered over the flags, I could talk. So for instance, my students that are hanging out here in the Indian Ocean, I might like hover around them and be like, hey, we're all working here. What are you doing? You know, because then I know who it is. In this one, I really don't know exactly who the person is. So that way you're able to see, that's what's known as a draggable. Again, the draggable is something that you'll have in the premium version. You don't have it in all versions. So what question types have I have you asked for? So, or basically, what have I given you an opportunity for? So now's your chance to, what have I let you guys do, basically? And this is one of those free responses. You truly get to respond. You can type in equations also. It's just not as, I usually have my students have open like Desmos and they copy and paste. Well, not my students, the math teacher students that I help with. They have Desmos open and then they'll copy and paste, or they'll have a different program and then just copy and paste it in. I would assume it works for Math Talk. I'm not sure what Math Talk is. Yes, the dashboard, the teacher dashboard is only available through the premium part. The rest you still get to see, but not the premium part. Pear Deck's real nice though. I've had teachers that sat through presentations before, and then you can email them, and a lot of times they'll give you 3 months for free so you can really get practice. And then maybe you can approach your school, approach your principal, approach the PFO or PTA that you have, and you might be able to get the grant for it. So this looks like everyone showed a closed, a one answer, multiple choice, labeling, drag and drops. So it looks like most people got what they did. And I love this answer. I interacted, and that's exactly the whole point. The whole point is just to get students to interact in so many different ways. Oh yes, then definitely for Math Talk, this would work great. You can pose a question and then students can answer however they want. I would probably recommend the drawing one would be the best choice, or give 2 slides, 1 drawing, so they do the problem, and then the next one, their explanation. So this is all the different ones that you guys answered, so well done. Next, there's another example. This might be going into that Math Talk kind of, you can go into that theory. So basically you just enter a number. And give everyone another 30 seconds. So enter your number. Yes, I'm going to show you all of that. And yes, Paige, there are plenty of templates. But the nice thing is you can design them yourself. Thank you, Stan. You won't be included in the Pear Deck, but we'll see if you fit into the equation like everyone else. Yes, the timer is here, as I was showing in the corner, where it actually has it on the side. You get a choice, though, of 30, 100, or 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 3 minutes. All right, so we are not going to do that timer. We are done. So I'm going to lock the screens, and then I'm going to show the response. This, you can see, is where everyone kind of took their guess. To me, this is a great, especially for younger ones, to really, even older ones, to show what happens with outliers. You guys are cool people. Some people will put in like negative 900, and so then the chart gets ridiculous. But it's just a great way for students to really see, like, this is the average of kind of what everyone came up with. This is the range. You can talk about outliers, what they do to a chart. You notice how the numbers are different, how things change. So it's a great way to really have those conversations in a visual format. And as a teacher, you didn't really have to do anything. You're allowing the students to provide all the data, and you're just showing what happens in regards to the chart. For the next one is the same question, but this is, I think, what was brought up earlier, is how did you decide on the number? So you gave me a number, but now give me your reasoning behind it. And again, this is one of those that you are writing your response, so it's going to be required for the students to type. If you have young ones, maybe their typing skills are less than amazing. So that might be where you want to use the drawing feature. And if they have a touch screen, it's probably way easier for them. This I just had, I'm in a high school, so majority of the time we use the typing one. So, but you easily could have it changed to a drawing one. All right, I'm gonna move on. I know we're going fast, but I wanna make sure we cover how to actually build these. So another nice thing is you can actually explore a website without leaving the presentation. So you might wanna give your students a website to look at, and they can. So if you look at the bottom, it's hard to see on mine, but it's underneath. You can actually go to peardeck.com and you're able to see a website itself, and then it pops up. Now this one here is simply for students to browse. There's no actual work involved. It's simply more consumption. And so it's a nice way to make sure that students are staying where they are. Yes, you can definitely add this to the Google Class. Currently, there is the text-to-speech coming. Right now, as a teacher, you can add speech and the students can listen to it. It's called audio. They're working on text-to-speech, but it's not there right now. So I would say that the best way to do it would have a extension open and then students could use that. And yes, I do that all the time. I actually just give the link and the students don't even have to put the code. They just go direct to the link. Anytime I have a code, it takes another 10 minutes. So yeah, always just the link. So now looking forward, I always like to add this, and I'm gonna actually pause here. If June has any dying questions, I tried to stay up with them. I don't know if I missed any from the very beginning.
Nope, I think you're good. You're good.
Okay, so if you guys want, this is a great one. I use this usually at the beginning of class, just so I know, because I have a high school and English is usually the class that students have a tendency to ignore because their answer is, I speak English. Many of them aren't skilled in writing English, but they speak English. And so they try to ignore my class, especially when they're taking advanced AP classes, Ivy college classes. So I usually give a stress check just to know how far can I push them that day. So as you can see, you're able to range anywhere. And you can always change the pictures out. I usually do that. And so you can change pictures in and out. You can change the wording themselves. Maybe if you have young ones, you don't want to use numbers, or you want to use numbers and emojis, you can totally do that also. So this way, if I show you responses, I'll be able to see on a bar kind of where everyone is. I can see that somebody's bouncing about. I like that some of you are very honest, that you're having a hard time managing. And then others are like, no, I got this, I'm focusing. And then I'm bothered, but I can handle it. It depends, right? So it's just a good way to see a temperature check. And you don't know who's feeling this way, but you get a sense of the room. And then of course you get the random souls that enjoy annotating elsewhere. So it's just another way that you can respond. The nice thing is, if you've noticed at the bottom, it always tells you. So I usually try to wait till I have those 2/3. Yes, there are question templates for the stress check. There's a lot of SEL. They're not always culturally responsive. That's where I change in the pictures. But there are a lot of SEL, different temperature checks, things like that. So now you can see we're at 80 out of 99. That's a good amount. So then usually you can move on, but you can wait till you get 100%. And you don't have to keep saying, do I have everybody? It tells you if you have everybody who's responded. So now looking at this, clear the annotations that have appeared. So with this, you're able to actually see the teacher part. So looking at this, you'll notice that there's different ways you can have teachers join. Or students join. I tried to explain them to you when we first started, but this is a review. You can join through Join PD, and then all they would have to do is type in a code. For your students, that might be a challenge. And so you always are able to do the invite through Google Classroom. If you use Google Classroom, you can give them a link. So that way there's no code typing required. It's simply press the link. And then you could also just display this and have them. You could also like email it to them, different ways, however you choose. There is a way that you can do anonymous joining. You can actually turn that on, turn that off. I will show you that towards the end of the presentation. I personally don't do that because I do have the teacher dashboard, but you might want to have the anonymous join. It just depends on your classroom or the comfort that you have, or if you're sharing it with adults. I used this last year for back to school night, and I wanted to get the parents' temperature checks. So I had the parents do it. I kept it on anonymous because I wanted the real answer of how they felt their students were, how they were doing, and it's a high school. But you could also have it so that they had to sign in. I know some of our parents didn't have access to our Google, so it was just easier to do it anonymous. There's the different ways you can do it, but we discussed that, so I'm going to move forward. So again, these are the types of questions you're able to add to a previously made slide deck. So if you have slides and you're like, oh, I love Pear Deck, you can just add Pear Deck right on top of your slides, and it's fantastic. Nothing really changes. You just make your slides interactive. I helped our history teacher change his slides over when we were in emergency learning in March, and his slides became interactive, and they're the same presentations he's used for like 10 years. So it works really well. He actually changed them from PowerPoint to Google to Pear Deck, and it was fantastic. This is what you have available. If you're on the free program, you can add the text, you can add multiple choice, you can add the number one that we did, and you can add the website. If you have the premium, you can do the draw and the draggable. Yes, you can always rejoin. If you notice, Pear Deck is great. They always keep the code at the top. It's not like Kahoot where it disappears or Google Classroom where it disappears. It's always right here in the top corner. And if I need a kid to see it brighter, I can always click on that and they can see it larger. So these are the ones that are available to you. Of course, you can display your answers. If you do have the other version of Pear Deck, the premium version, I'm going to just show you that you actually are able to, in this case, you can display your responses, and then you can actually choose. This one here, it's a bad example to show, but this one here, I don't want to go back because it freaks some people out. If I move these, it'll move all of you backwards in time, but I think you can handle it. We're going to go back a little bit. I just want to show you guys. Oh, it's been a while since we actually. All right, we'll do temperature check. That's a good one. So say I go through this and I want to see, like, this is, remember, is the teacher version. So I would not display this to the class. If I decide instead to do list layout, I'm going to see every student individually. And so I can see exactly where Michelle is. I'm glad she's good. It would be embarrassing. I'm just trying not to embarrass anyone. So it's good she's good. And then you'll notice I have the ability that I can star her answer, and that would be one that I could actually show to the class. When I show it to the class, they are not going to see the name. Only I see the name as the teacher. The students are only going to see this, and if I show the response, they're only going to see Michelle's. They see her line, but they don't know who it is. And so I don't use it, obviously, for stress check. That's not something that I'm going to show to anyone. I just forgot you couldn't see that, but just believe me that there is not the name there. I can click the star and that will just highlight those certain ones. So for instance, in my class, we do a thing called thesis throwdown. Everybody writes a thesis to a prompt. I do it through Pear Deck. I choose the thesis, either really good, really bad, or kind of in the middle. I'll choose 3 of them. And then as a class, we discuss which ones do we think are really good? Which ones do we think are kind of in the middle? Which one just doesn't quite hit thesis quality? And so it really helps to have that. And there's no name on it. So it's fantastic because students that a lot of times are the quiet ones, the ones that don't share, are the ones that get chosen. They have insightful things. They just don't actually discuss. And so this is a way to do that. Also, if I see a student that's having an issue, remember this is for the premium side, I can actually leave feedback directly to that student within Pear Deck. So I can click on it. I can say, I'm glad this is working for you. And then I can send that feedback. And then I can even add more feedback, like if we start kind of a conversation back and forth. So that way you're able to see that there's this different feature. And then of course I can hide the response. So Sometimes I get those inappropriate drawings, so I can just kind of mute that person for today. I'm not going to listen to you on this question. And I also don't have to like embarrass them if they're just way off. Or sometimes students get very personal. And so you just want to make sure that it's not shown to everyone else, especially in an English class, they have that tendency. So I'm going to go back to our original. So with this, you're able to now, sorry, I'm gonna have to move us forward. Don't get too dizzy. There we go. So these are the different ways you can see it. And remember, this is all the teacher dashboard part. You can see it as a list, as I showed you, where it just layers everyone on top of each other, or everyone in a chronological order. I can change that by time of how they entered, student first name, and also the alphabetical of their response. The next one is as a grid, so I can see a bunch of people at once. That's the one I use all the time. Again, I can change it by time, how they entered it, their first name, or their alphabetical response. And then also I can do it as the big stack, which is where we saw the purple blob. I don't usually use overlay too often. Usually the grid and the list are far more valuable to me. Remember, this is for if you are using the paid version. Again, this is telling you exactly what I just said. So you have this available to you. You can visually see it. So now's your chance. You get to summarize. What have you learned so far? And I'm glad Shanna found that. They are doing the 3. Hopefully they would continue, but we all know. So as I can see, I have 38, 39 that have responded. I know you guys are probably in the middle of your thoughts. So I'm going to keep moving through though, because I want to make sure everyone has a chance. Just so you know, we've gone over so far. Hopefully this can check your thinking. How to join, the different types, the different ways to present, and then the different ways as a teacher. Remember, this is the premium one of what you yourself can view. So this actually has a bunch of slides. When we're done today, I'm going to put it on student view, and you'll get to play with this till your heart's content if you want more practice. I'm not going to do it in our session just because I don't want to run out of time. But just so you see a quick overview, you have ways to go through it. This actually is explaining how you do the add-on itself. So what you would do is you would have an actual slide presentation open. In this case, I'm going to close the chat right now. So you're going to have your slide presentation open. You are going to go to add-ons. You are going to go to get add-ons. And this is if you're in your school Google account. You're going to click here. You can click Pear Deck. And you'll see that there's 2 here. So you can click this one. You'll see it's Pear Deck for Google Slides. So this makes it super convenient. You can just add it right on top of the Pear Deck so that you instantly have that. Let's see if they still have. Okay, so it's just Pear Deck. They used to have 2 that you had to have, so this one's perfect. So it's still the one. Pear Deck made it much simpler. So you're going to install that and you're going to have it. Once you have it, you sometimes will have it come up as a separate thing. So you notice my slide deck, I have Pear Deck by itself. It used to be an extra add-on that you could have to install that. I think now it comes naturally, but I'm not positive. So you'll have to be the one to test that out. No matter what, you can click on add-ons and then just go down and you'll see Pear Deck for Google. And then I'll say open Pear Deck add-on. Once you open it, it itself will come up with a side window here. And you'll notice that you have a separate pane. With this pane, you have the ability to start your lesson directly from here. That will actually create the Pear Deck, which is what I showed you guys. You also have the ability to click the hamburger or the pancakes, and you can get a how-to video right installed. You can publish and share your lesson. You might want to do this if you have other teachers that share things with you. You can require student logins or you can turn them off. And then you can also review your previous sessions that you've had. So if you had a bunch of Pear Decks that you've done, you can always click on this. It will open another window. And it's every session that you have ever taught using Pear Deck, and it opens up a whole separate section. So in this case, you'll notice that it'll eventually populate. I have quite a bit because I use it all the time. And then you'll also notice after 30 days, it'll archive any that are closed. And then you have every Pear Deck you've ever used and taught. And you can always restore them. It keeps a copy of them. And so it's a very useful way of having that. So going back here, you just find that by clicking on your 3 lines, your hamburger or your pancake, and it's at the bottom one. So you see all the things that you have created. Looking back at the overall thing, this is where some people were asking, do you have to make up slides yourself? No, you do not. You can click the Our Template Library. When you click on this, it'll open another pane underneath, and you'll notice that there's different ones you can do. There's beginning of lesson, so we might call them bell ringers or do nows, or just starting class. There's during the lesson, so it's more of like formative assessments. There might be activities, transition slides, and then there's end of lessons. If you're really into exit tickets, you don't have to do all the post-it notes anymore. You can do it directly in Pear Deck. And then there's also critical thinking slides. Social emotional slides, that's where we had the temperature checks. You'll notice, I know someone had a question. You'll see that these are all the different ones that are available. I use this one a lot in the spring of what's filling your bucket and what's draining it, but instead of today, I would change it out to this week. And if you want to add it to your slideshow, all you have to do is, I'm going to add it right here. Make sure you have where you want it. You just click on it. And please don't fail me, Pear Deck. There it goes. You click on it, and then it automatically just inserts, and you'll see everything is here. It has the instructions. It tells the students what to do. And so that's all you have to do is you just click which ones you want. You'll notice there's a bunch of different ones you can have. As I said, if they're not maybe the picture that you want or the look of what you want, you can always change things around. So for instance, I use this student. I'm going to add another one. So if I have this student, I can always click on it and you can see it's an image. So maybe I want to substitute something else in, or if you have a class and you have like mascots for your class, you might want to change it to like an animal. Or I've had students that the wording is not clear enough and the face doesn't really express it. So they actually changed out the kids and put in emojis to make it easier for students depending on their level. We have a teacher that has students that have they have challenges with cognitive understanding, so they use emojis all the time. So the emojis work perfect. The kids didn't really reach them or help them. And then you'll notice down farther in the template, so just clicking back into the template, you'll see there's example questions for any content area. And then there's actually one set up for the littles. There's for math, science, social studies, world language, and ELA. I am an ELA teacher, but I use the social studies, the world language. I use science all the time. I haven't really delved into math too often, but I'll use these and just change things around because I like the template. So I'm going to use that template so that way it's easy to use. You're not stuck in like, oh, I'm only an English teacher. You can use any of them. If you like the size of the template, the style, you can change it to anything you want. So like for instance, on distance learning, I actually used, they have plot, mountain, story map. I took out all the elements here and changed it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I had a calendar. It was easy. The kids could just click. It turned into a hyperdoc. But I used this slide. I didn't use it as a story map. I used it for our actual class assignments. So there's things you can do. As long as you have the template, you can play with it to your heart's content. And then you always just go back by clicking back. If we scroll down, or sorry, click back one more time to the main menu, you'll notice if I do have a slide, I can always just click one of these and it automatically turns this slide into a text slide Or maybe I decide I don't want it to be a text slide. I want it to be a multiple choice slide. And so I can just click it. So it's already a text slide. That's not what I wanted. I can click it to become a multiple choice slide. It's the same slide. I didn't have to do anything different. And then here I insert, what do I want my answers to be? So I actually have that choice. I can do it. The only downside is you can only have one correct answer, which sometimes annoys me because I want them to practice that. There's not only one right answer, but that's not available for this program. It's just one correct answer. If you decide I don't want this to be a Pear Deck slide at all you have to do is remove that part, and it now is no longer one of those interactive slides. It's just the slide it was originally. As you can see here, if you have the premium, you're actually able to add audio. So this works really well. You can upload an audio file, you can record. So this is from the teacher's perspective, but again, only on the actual premium version. So we're gonna go through these quickly. I think I went through those. You have these as examples. So here's your ones for synchronous. Again, we did not get to this part yet, but I wanted to show you guys before we run out of time. There's a thing called student takeaways. As you can see, it has the red band around it. So this is one of those premium features that you actually are able to publish takeaways. It uses a program called Autocrat. So what it does is it takes every student's response, puts them into like a really large Google Doc, and then redistributes it through Google Classroom to every single student individually. So your student will get the entire slide presentation, like back in the 90s when we get those PowerPoint presentations, and it had the picture of the PowerPoint and then a box for notes. It basically does that, but with your slide, but it gives the students what their answer was. And so the students can get that in response. So that way they have this. You'll notice at the top, it has an area kind of Cornell note style for summary. And then it shows what was the picture, what was your response. And so sometimes I will use this if a student is going into an IEP or going into a 504 or a student success team meeting. And I actually can have this pulled out and be like, remember when we did this? See how you didn't respond? That's a reason why you struggle so hard when it comes to our summative assessments. So it's just a way for you to really have that conversation. You get a copy, the student gets a copy, and so that way you really have the takeaways for every single assignment you give. As it says, you can extend it by adding commentary, of course, because it's a Google Doc, and so you can add commentary, you could add pictures, you could add a lot of things if you wanted to. For asynchronous, there's a lot. There is now, because everyone was using it, as soon as you start a presentation, so if we go back here and I want to click start, it's going to jack things up a little bit. You'll notice right away it lets me choose, do I want this to be student paced or do I want it to be instructor paced? Currently we are doing instructor because we're live, but I can quickly switch it over to student paced, and that's why when we leave, that is how you guys will have it left as. You'll have it open, you can play with it, you can write your responses. You can actually go back and fill things in. That's why I don't worry about not having 100% at the moment, because in class we have to move on. But I always leave it as student paced, so students that struggle, take longer to understand a concept, are always able to go back into it and make adjustments, change their thinking, fix their thinking, go further if they want to. And so it's a nice way that you can switch it afterwards. I'm going to show you how to do that before we leave. And so that way you make sure that you're keeping everybody in the right time frame that they need. So instructor is when we're all together. Student is when you want students to work on their own. You also, here's how to turn it on in case you forget, it is in the slide deck. You simply have this ability to turn it on once you've already started. You also can rename your sessions. So it's like the kids, you might have untitled document 500. That gets annoying. So you can change from unnamed session to a named session. This is what the takeaways look like. This is the student version. Again, it's the same as what the teacher version looks like. And then this is actually for you to practice those student versions. So this part here, I'm going to go through quickly. It's a bunch of different things you can do. Just in case you were wondering, you're like, I'm a busy teacher, I don't have time to create a lot. Pear Deck is actually paired with a bunch of different companies. not to have a pun, but the different kind of pear. So there's actually what's known as weekly wonders. There's usually one elementary, middle school, high school. And it's 3 pieces of content, and students actually just, it's for inquiry based. So a lot of times I'll give this to my students on a Monday, and it's something they know is like extra thinking time for them. There's also, for anyone who's familiar with News ELA, they have daily decks. So it'll actually have the article and then work to go with it, depending. You can assign that to your students. And then finally, there is the Be Internet Awesome with Google. And so they can actually get digital citizenship that goes along with it. So there's just different ways. The link is in all of these slides, so you're able to quickly click on it if you are interested. And then there's always plenty of other things. There's resources, so you can also browse through if you would like for later. So yes, they do have the 30-day. It has the bit.ly. I tried clicking on it earlier and it was giving me some concerns. So if it doesn't work, I would say just reach out to Pear Deck. They're good about responding to things in this way. So basically we are at the end. I know we went really fast. We have 4 minutes left. I want to show you a few things on how to end it. There's, for those of you that have noticed here at the bottom, there is the new prompts. Let me just actually go to the end. I made a very simplified one here for those of you that want one pager kind of. You have it here of how to actually add things. And then also what it looks like on the Pear Deck site itself and what it does at the top, different things you can do. So you have all of these at the very end of my slideshow to help you out. And then there's also more settings you can add. There's a lot of other things you can do. So I showed you where those are hanging out. And then Pear Deck offers plenty of help videos also. So I want to make sure, there, we are at the end of mine. So if you are in the middle of the lesson and you decide, you know what, their faces aren't showing me that they're paying attention, you can always click new prompts. So this is the middle of class. You can always throw something up. There's like KWL charts. There's all sorts of things. There's our stress text. Here's like end of class. You can also click and there's like responses. So if you just want to fast, like, are you good? Are you not good? And then there's also just plain slides. Like, okay, I just need you to take a minute and draw what you're thinking, or I just need you to add text, things like that. So that is available to you. You'll also notice there's 3 dots. 3 dots always mean there's magic to happen. So this is where you rename it. You just click on where the name is. This is going to be Pear Deck, RCOE. I save the session name. So now when I click on the 3 dots, you'll see it's changed the name in my Google Drive for Pear Deck. I can make this full screen. I can open my dashboard as a teacher in a new window on a new device. So maybe I have my cell phone or I have an iPad in class. And then here's the important part. I can turn on student pace. So as soon as I click this, I instantly am now on student pace. So you actually have access to it from here. So you don't have to worry. I'm going to add this to the sketch. Actually, I'll just add it to, yeah, I'll add it to the sketch. So that way you can always go back if you want to. And you have full access to my slideshow as slides so that you can steal and take and borrow, but you also have it as a Pear Deck so that you can play. So I'm going to add that for us so that way we have it. You'll notice now that it's on student pace, I can always stop it. It tells me in several places. And then I also can end the session and I can leave the session. So in this case, I'm going to leave the session because it is for you guys now on student version. So that way you're able to see everything and you have access to everything. And I'm going to pause because we have 1 minute and I think June has things to say.
Just want to say thank you everyone for joining us for Google Camp 2020. I hope you enjoyed the sessions that you attended. And just to let you know, we will be hosting Google Camp next year. We don't know for sure when, so we hope that you will come back and join us. So we hope you have enjoyed the sessions. Thank you.
I hope it helped, and please reach out to me. It's on the slides. I will add this to the sched also. Right now it's just in the thing, but reach out anytime you need help. I'd be happy to help you. Thank you very much, June.
Oh, you're welcome. It was nice working with you.
It was good working with you.
Enjoyed your presentation.
You'll be expert on so many topics.
All
All right.
righty, I'm going to close it out.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.